And welcome back to the LEC ahead of two pivotal matchups to decide our race to playoffs. Let's run through the scenarios on how each team will make it, and we'll try to make it real simple. Right, next matchup is Vitality versus Rogue. How does Vitality lock playoffs? Well, it's quite simple. They win. If Vitality wins the next match, they're in playoffs. If Misfit wins against Fnatic then, well, Team Vitality and XL will be the two teams moving forward into playoffs. How does Fnatic make it then, you probably ask? Well, it's actually quite simple. They win. If Fnatic win today against Misfits, they lock playoffs. If they lose, no matter the Vitality scenario, actually, except that one, I guess. Well, there you have it. If they win, of course. If they lose, no matter the Vitality scenario, they are out, and XL get it. So all for Fnatic and Vitality, you have to win. It's all about winning. Losing, it's going to be a bit different then, because if Vitality lose to Rogue, right? And then let's say that Fnatic win against Misfits, then we end out in the tiebreaker boogaloo of today, where you will see that Fnatic, they qualify for playoffs, but XL and Team Vitality, they all have to play a tiebreaker. Now, there's a reason why we call it a tiebreaker boogaloo, because this will not be our only tiebreaker then. Misfit will then be tied with Fnatic in terms of a scoreline, and they have the same head-to-head, so we'll also have to have a tiebreaker between those two. These are the scenarios today, so yeah, that's gonna be it for it. Win, try not to lose.
Win, try not to lose. Okay, thank you, GB. That's pretty simple, isn't it, Ender?
Yeah, you know, in all my years of experience in League of Legends across multiple esports titles now, I think if one thing I've learned, it's that winning usually is a good thing.
Yeah, it helps LP and everything-wise. But let's focus on the next game, as we said, Vitality versus Rogue. And when I turn to Vitality, guys, I don't want to jinx anything, but Vitality and Super Teams, it feels like the history is repeating itself here, Guldborg.
I mean, we take a look at some of that gold grabs, and maybe the early game goes well for them at times, but you can see that kind of flip-flops a little bit, and that's due to the fact that they like throwing the ball on towards the enemy courts instead, and they have a tendency of, you know, throwing their games a little bit, and obviously throwing games is not what you want when you need victories.
Yeah, and you know, it's hard to call the game against Fnatic a super throw. They were up 3,500 gold almost, but like so many of these games keep coming down to team fights, and that's been the difference where Vitality have been beaten out. The recent example versus Fnatic, Perkz is trying so hard, almost too hard, to win out in those fights, putting himself in the front line in a couple of situations where it ends up going the wrong way. And it's all about those 5v5s that keep skidding out for Vitality.
Man, I'm actually just realizing that Fnatic versus Vitality, that's like the heartbeat monitor for that game as well. That just goes up and down.
I mean, it's a pretty good image of how that game played out, honestly. But when you think of Vitality, they had a super good start of Summer. Bringing Haru in, it feels like they find their form throughout the entirety of Summer. But when I talked to Alphari also, for instance, he mentioned that communication may have been an issue. And when you look at the struggles in the mid-game, especially for Vitality, maybe this is what it comes down to.
Yeah, but I think even when this team was assembled back in the day, the questions was always that there's too many strong voices in a team. I think they figured out how they wanted to play a little bit then, with Haru and Labrov playing around Perkz in the mid lane, then facilitating solo laners. But then they trekked back with that a little bit again. Yeah,
and there has been some problems like fundamental setups around objectives, like the game against SK. Vitality just don't have the flank vision, right? That's not a lapse in communication. That's a lapse in preparation, setting up for that objective. Humanoid also is finding some angles to enter into a fight. So Vitality, it's not like their individual play within a team fight necessarily that's problematic. Sometimes it's just the setup around it and the lack of flank awareness.
It's hard for the team because they entered this Super Week with too much points. One victory is necessary for them to get the playoff spot, but will they get it today against Rogue, especially because turning to this team now, the second half of the season for them they've been a shadow of their former selves.
They definitely have, and I think for better or worse at times, we've seen a new clutch factor in Rogue that we didn't see in the past, but we've also seen their early game stats completely go down the gutter, and that's interesting when Rogue used to be the team synonymous with early games as well. Strong laners, junglers that's facilitating laners as well in Malrang, and then all of a sudden just, you know, clean out the game.
Yeah, that's the thing, is it is somewhat twofold, because in the past, Rogue have played with these solo laners and been like, okay, you know, if we don't need an inspired gank in our lanes all the time, we're still going to win out passively in our lanes. lanes, but when Malrang joined the team, it was all about so much early game pressure. And yet, when he slowed down a lot of that early pressure midway through this season, the lanes seem to have stumbled as well. And when Larssen isn't finding himself on those strong scaling picks, it seems like the fundamental play of Rogue just takes a step down.
And that's super interesting because that's also something I mentioned to Freddy when I interviewed him, telling him that, hey, when Malrang doesn't find the agency to help out his laners, or when Larssen doesn't get ahead enough, this is when, as you say, Rogue collapses. But what he said is that they lost their identity as something that's really common about many teams, is the fact that they had such a hard time finding their spot in the meta.
I mean, that's the thing, right? The meta is ever shifting, so the fact that you're really good at playing an identity in a, well, meta that facilitates that identity, that's great. But players that then sometimes, I think the Excel team was really good at mentioning this themselves, they get stubborn and they want to continue with that stylistic that they had success with. But losing an identity is just a new opportunity for finding the identity that suits the meta that you're walking in. And at least I think as a silver lining, they found that a little bit with their bot lane.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is it seems like there's kind of a plan that they can take. You look at a team like Excel that's been playing tanks towards the top side, then scaling picks this year and scaling bot laner as well. I love that. Play towards the bot lane. Give me more of that. Rogue can simplify by going harder in the teamfight comp direction.
Need to get that comp ahead indeed, but losing against PDS yesterday, and looking at the regular season they had now, this has to be their worst regular season since spring 2020, which means that maybe this time this is the reverse scenario for Rogue and they finally get the title.
Well, I mean, hopefully that's the scenario they're looking for themselves, because yeah, they're not getting that first seed, and that's crazy for Rogue as well, because at least that used to be always the thing we said, that they're so scarily inconsistent. When you really think about how many times they've managed to get first in regular season, it's almost uncalled for how good at the best of one scenarios they've been. Now they're finding themselves in a situation where the best of one not working out for them. They need to find themselves, especially moving forward to the best of 5 scenarios, because you can't just go game after game after game.
It's funny though, because there is overlap. You look at the seasons where they have been #1. What if they had the whole season long a very clear identity, strong lanes that can win, get the push, and also scale into the late game? Earlier this year, it was the super aggressive Malrang early as well. It was always that one way to play.
And I think we've heard a couple of players say this before as well. It really doesn't matter how regular season plays out. We saw that with G2 in spring as well. It's all about how you perform in playoffs. If you get to playoffs, forget everything that happened in regular season. Of course, there's some takeaways. Either way, you just need to show up when you move forward in the best of 5 scenarios.
Yeah, and in the case of Vitality, you have to get their first cap. Vitality locking their spot in the playoffs. Quickshot and crew, over to you.
Happy birthday!
Very much.
Happy birthday!
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome to the Commonwealth Caster Desk. A Welshman, an Irishman, and a South African walk into a Berlin studio, and we have a fight for their lives. How do Vitality make playoffs?
They win.
That's it. That's what I wanted to hear.
Making sure I was paying attention.
I was just checking. How do Vitality win this game, Nymaera?
How do they win this game? A lot of it comes around this draft, of course. We've been talking about a lot of teams this weekend about having their take on the meta. Vitality still very much allowing Alphari to take that Gnar into preferential matchups and just say, you're going to play that, you're going to win. And then the rest of the team then gets a lot of resources to play with later into the draft to work with.
Yeah, and I think a huge amount of that is going to revolve around this mid-jungle. If you can get Perkz ahead, he's been so good at leaning into Alphari, making sure he gets those big advantages in that top side. So I think that's where we're going to see a lot of attention here, especially as we've kind of seen Malrang pick up the pace over the course of this weekend as well. So I want to see if you can do that again here now to try and disrupt that from Vitality.
And that is a huge thing, right? Because when we think about Rogue when they've been at their best, it has been around, particularly in spring, Malrang being an X factor on top of already solid players around the rest of it. If Malrang is starting to pick up steam again, that's good signs for them.
Well, we'll find out whether or not Rogue can start to turn the ship around, whether or not they can cause a thorn for Vitality. And reminder, for Vitality, win and you are in. It's that simple. Excel, right now, sitting backstage, they are Rogue's biggest fans. soon as we load up onto the Rift. One of the side discussions we've been having a lot backstage. Blue side versus red side. The preference both in the LPL and here in Europe, and Vitality find themselves in blue sides today.
There's a really fun bit of trivia with that. Do you know the last time red side was picked in the LEC? Week 4, day 1. We have not had a single red side pick since then, and blue side has been, of course, very dominant in the world meta. It allows you to get a lot of those power picks right off the bat.
And that's the thing, there's so many strong picks in the current meta, like you're still going to see Yuumi's there, Zeri's still there, Poppy, Wukong, all these picks Gwen now taken off the board, but that's why in like, at least in the LPL, we see a lot of teams like trading those picks. We're like, hey look, we'll leave open 3 of them on red side, we'll trade 1 for 2 and come out the better for us.
Yeah, overload it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the problem is right now, when you look at the likes of trading your Zeri and your Sivir, like, there are losing sides to that too. I think, so actually I was chatting to another caster about this, a guy called Temporal. I really appreciate his opinion. The way that he put it, which I very much agree with, is counters are worse than the power picks. Now Yuumi, you gotta try and counter that now.
Listen, Vitality are playing for their playoff lives, are playing for a shot at Worlds. Yuumi was unpicked, unbanned in the previous game, which blew my mind. And this time around, it is first pick. You have to expect that Rogue not only anticipated, but will have some sort of answer.
Yeah, I like the gentleman's agreement we had last game, but this one, you are going to be looking at very late game scaling coming in for Rogue, already with the Sivir and the Ornn. They are looking to just hyper scale into the later portion of the game. So I'm curious how they want to try and work through a mid jungle that's going to allow them to get there. Like, with picks like Silas still up and available here, I imagine we'll still see a lot of attention towards that.
I mean, we're probably going to get the Zeri too, right, I would assume, because when you're looking at this Yuumi first pick, you look at that and you say, doesn't matter what the AD carry matchup is at that point, as long as he's got that scaling factor, the Yuumi makes up the difference in anything that could happen in that AD carry matchup, which is something which I typically see between the Zeri and the Sivir. It feels like Sivir is a little bit of a better version of that Zeri. Yuumi tips the balance.
Now, of course, in terms of that Zeri Yuumi, Carzzy has played Zeri 3 times this season, only 1 win. Labrov's got his hands on the kitty cat once, went unkilled, and it was a victory.
Yeah, my biggest problem here, though, is with the way we're hovering the Lulu here, is that if Rogue end up going towards that, which they do, you don't have a huge amount of lockup for this Zeri. You're heavily reliant on the Ornn, which is kind of that one big combo coming through. And if Zeri's able to avoid that, well, then you have a Zeri and a Yuumi, which, as we saw from Upset yesterday, can definitely take over in a lot of those situations. So I want to see something for Larssen like Nerdy, Alessandra, or something along these lines that can just lock up this Zeri and make it easy for the rest of the team to follow.
Other option is something you mentioned a little earlier, something like Silas, right? Where it's still kind of that playmaking, and if you steal something like Yuumi, or maybe if there's again, Vitality love picking stuff like the Gnar, right? If they lock in that Gnar later on, you can start looking at that as another kind of pseudo-engage option for the side of Rogue to get on top of that carry.
I'm
Oh
curious.
yeah, the Gnar's gone, yeah. Oops.
Yeah, I'm curious as well, like looking at the jungle, if we end up seeing Malrang go towards something like the Xin Zhao or something along these lines, because definitely when you've got Lulu involved in things, having this like Xin Zhao Lulu combo can be so strong in those early skirmishes.
That Xin Zhao has not been played by Malrang this summer, with Wukong still open and available. Wonder if that will be banned out here by Vitality. The Trundle's already
Poppy's the
been
other one,
secured.
right?
Pop is the other option. So a number of those sort of high priority picks, Dagda, available. What direction do you think Vitality go once we see this final ban?
Yeah, I don't think they'll take the Poppy here, like just because you already have the Trundle picked up. They don't really want something that's going to be able to, or they don't have anything particularly mobile apart from the Zeri on the opposite side. So I think Poppy's just going to fall to the wayside. So I think we will see something a bit like the Xin Zhao, maybe even something like a Volley Bear or something like that, or even Jarvan trying to come through here as well.
Super interesting. That Poppy, by the way, only 1 game played this summer by Malrang. Jarvan was banned away in phase 1. So if this is locked in, a little bit of a surprise, and not something we see Malrang play a whole lot.
And I think in this game as well, you're going into a Trundle ultimate. You have to go through this absolute like muddy mire of the Yuumi ult as well. So if you're going into this now, I'm looking at the front to the back, and this Trundle ult could be an absolute deal breaker for Rogue if they're just going down the front.
Yeah, and again, you're not kind of adding more of this like point and click CC and early that you want for a Zeri. So I think the Poppy a bit unusual here, which is why I was talking about things like the Xin Zhao, because you can dive on towards the Zeri, knock her up, and have that single target CC. Are you going to be coming across here for Vitality?
So I know Captain Flowers had a bit of a pop-off moment the other day when his main got locked in. Now, I have been spoiled rotten this year. Ahri's been picked so much, but do you love to see that champion? And
Spoiled rotten because the plays have been abysmal, or because you've been very
it's not been a EU specialty. Of course, Caps has shown us how to play this, but some of our other teams have definitely been trying the hand of it. Perkz, actually, though, of that list, is one of our better Ahris in EU.
We are going to get the Aatrox counter matchup here in the top side. I've been very hit or miss on this Aatrox though, just because especially when you're up against an Ornn, yes, you do well on the lane, but the whole point of this Ornn is chances are, hey, we're going to scale for the late game, and that's not really what you want to do when you're as this Aatrox. So I think definitely you're looking at more mid-game for Vitality here, but I was just looking at the Lissandra. I love the Lissandra, but I don't know if we're going to get it.
No, swapped away to Viktor at the last second. That Aatrox for Alphari is the first time all summer. When I look down his champion list, it's like 10 plus in terms of rank. Only 13 professional games. Not something you've seen Alphari play a whole hell of a lot. And with Viktor now being locked in, okay, Dagda, zoom out. How do these comps want to play? I think it just feels a little bit brawly to me in team fights.
Yeah, I mean, you're all late game here on Rogue side, right? But my biggest concern again is you don't have any like guaranteed CC. So for Vitality, it definitely a stronger mid game with things like the Ahri, the Trundle, the Aatrox. But I think if they can actually lean that pressure from the mid lane into the bot side for Carzzy, get Carzzy up and rolling, there's just nobody that can deal with the Zeri and this Yuumi combo. They will take over in fights.
They do have a stronger front line if things go even, but I love what Rogue have done. It's going back to that scaling, back to front to back team fights, something which they've struggled to really stick towards. They're going back to an older identity of themselves. Vitality, I think they're looking for individual leads to overpower things.
Individual leads in a team like Vitality. Where have I heard that story before? We need to see how this laning phase plays out, and we need to see a more aggressive, a more impactful performance than what we saw against Fnatic yesterday. The crowd in Berlin have got their sign game on point today. One last reminder, for Vitality, it is simple. Win, and you are in playoffs. Lose, and there are shenanigans to break down as we look ahead to our final game of the regular season, Fnatic versus Misfits. For now, it's time for Vitality versus Rogue. Win, and you're in. Nymaera, I love the way you framed it, talking a little bit about the individual impact. I'm going to come to Dagda first, as maybe there's some shenanigans, so the crowd cheering, go Rogue, go. What are you expecting from this early passage of play?
I mean, Labrov just going to get caught.
Oh my word, kill the kitty, kill the kitty, kill the kitty! Labrov, no flash available. We'll be able to use those zoomies, and there's a flash forward from Malrang for first blood.
So they commit to the charge on Poppy, leveling up that level 1, but it's a 5-point start from Vitality, and they're punished for it, all right. Early lead over the Malrang. Normally takes him a couple of minutes to get to that point, gets on the board early.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what he's going to go back for now. So probably pick up an early item for himself here, just in the longsword. But
Dark Seal.
Dark Seal, yeah. But I think the big thing is like how you can't really punish this further, right? It's like, yes, Labrov used the heal, but he's still going to be fine. He's still going to be able to attach to Carzzy. He still has the Ghost and the Flash there. But I think for Vitality, they're basically going to be looking to go now, okay, can we get Haru into Malrang's face? Because a flashless Poppy who started E on her first clear is not going to be particularly healthy as she tries to get to this bot side.
So you were chatting about what they could buy on that first back. It's actually going to be, if you can see it down there, it's actually going to be the boots and the control ward. That gives you maybe the ability to scout out a little more and not beat that jungle.
Yeah, it's interesting because usually we actually see junglers take the free boots, right? Because you're just going to be clearing through your jungle anyway, and you want to try and use that passive income to get you to that later point. So that's why I was like, oh yeah, maybe the boots, but I assumed you were going to go with the free boots here for Poppy, but it's going to be helpful now for Malrang to try and run away, honestly, from Haru.
I mean, huge as well, because during the pregame, just before draft, we were talking about Malrang, talking about the influence, the impact he's had for the team when Rogue were finding a lot of success. When you get boots this early on a champion like Poppy that can disrupt lanes, when you consider the Ornn and the Viktor, that is a tool to keep Vitality back.
Okay, and so interesting thing about that as well, you can actually see there's the I didn't put that, but
what does it mean?
It's a really like a roundabout point about like the circle of life. Right, well, Malrang actually has water walking on the runes as well. You see actually that particle effect turning up. Early boots, water walking. This Poppy is going to be places a lot quicker than you expect. So if this is about laning leads and individual leads for Vitality, let's see if Malrang can throw a wrench into things.
Yeah, I definitely think for Vitality, they just have the easier opportunities to look for plays, right? Perkz can get onto Larssen in the mid lane with a charm. You've got Carzzy and Labrov, once they hit 6, can set up for plays there as well. Alphari should be dictating the pace of this top side with the counter matchup on the Aatrox. So I definitely feel like Haru has his pick of the litter here. It's just a case of how he wants to try and use that. And for me, it feels like trying to work through early dragons, get yourselves in positions where you can force Rogue into fights before they're comfortable is going to be your best bet.
Dagda, do you remember one of our storylines for Vitality on Friday?
Yeah.
Remind me about Vitality and Dragons. They're phenomenal at that, aren't they?
They're phenomenally bad.
That's where I was
the
going with
lowest
that.
average dragon in the LEC right now. 2 per game, which is absolutely insane. So definitely I don't know if we're going to get that for Vitality.
And less than 1 in 3 games do they pick up the first dragon. So Vitality as a team prioritize Herald, going for that dragon is not something they've leaned towards.
They're just like conservationists. I'm not sure. Maybe they're endangered species.
I mean, we've seen a lot of dragons. I don't know, I don't know how that
they all
works
come
yet.
from.
Quick stats enjoyers, dragons' lives matter too. This time round, Rogue have got themselves a 700 gold lead thanks to that first blood. Lanes thus far, nobody really running away with it just yet. I still think it's still very relative.
Yeah, I mean, besides actually CS advantages, what else? You are getting pushing lanes for Vitality, and this does allow Haru to try and look for Malrang. So that's something which we were talking about with the Poppy Flash being down. Just gives Haru the ability to, much like what we were seeing from Mad Lions, and of course Vitality showing this in the last couple of weeks as well, just being able for Haru to just get up into the enemy jungle, battle ward a bit.
Yeah, I'm kind of keeping an eye on this mid lane, though. There's actually a nice bit of a CS lead opening up for Larssen there, which honestly is just speaking well of Larssen and his laning prowess, right? The fact he's the first strike as well, also going to help out in getting him that nice little gold lead that we're seeing. So definitely going to keep our eyes, because if this game just continues in this kind of slow-paced manner, it does favor Rogue, which already is why we're seeing Haru sneak into this bot push.
Has the flash himself, what can they do?
Pillar of Ice comes out, spell shield used by Comp, flashed away from, flash follow with the Yuumi Zoomies. Haru, first blood, followed up by a second for Vitality.
And that is a great amount of gold injection put straight into Haru's pocket. It's not about finding the jungler in this one, it's about finding a lane, finding a weakness, finding some kills.
And this is so good for Vitality, because as we said, like, Carzzy is going to be that unstoppable carry in the later portion of the game. It's very different from what we've seen from Vitality most of the split. It's only been this super weekend that we're seeing them play around this bot side, and Haru already flashing forward, gets the double kill. Brilliant start for the bot lane.
And the fact that you get all 4 summoners too, that's actually pretty devastating for Rogue, because you know as the Sivir, you don't really have an option to not push the lane. So you're going to be sat there now, looking at this, looking at the next time a pillar coming in, being very deadly for you.
And especially if you start to look at like Rift Heralds, which is where Vitality put a huge amount of their pressure. No summoner spells on that bot lane. The ability for Carzzy and Labrov to play way more aggressive, and especially if you're able to move Carzzy and Labrov up towards that Rift Herald early enough, you can try and start to snowball this game even further, continue to put pressure on this bottom side.
Okay, and actually looking at this wave state now, oh,
Beautiful.
Look at that. Yep, a pillar from Haru, not enough to pick up the kill this time round. But investing time and resources into this bottom lane, Zeri Yuumi win the first round of picks as well.
And this wave state is hellish for Rogue's 2v2. That is going to be pushing in. Malrang has to shepherd this in, because as we saw there, Comp walks up to the wave, he is in danger. The way that you can throw up that pillar, the way you can dash in, makes things very dangerous to walk up.
There is no flashes, though, on the Vitality side of things, so if Malrang can get the right angle where Carzzy's standing, it gets very dangerous.
It becomes so difficult when you think of the mobility in Zeri already, plus you add the prowling projectile and the mobility from Yuumi. There are some tools that Vitality can use. Malrang's going to find that heroic charge onto Haru, down to 60%, gets turned into a little munchkin. Boomerang blade flies back across. You and me and Labrov keeps him alive.
And you can see Labrov was trying to connect there to Haru, but knowing the steadfast presence was available for Malrang, had to wait until that was down, which meant that Haru got very close to falling, but will give a little bit of an advantage over towards Rogue on this bottom half of the map.
Yeah, but speaking of other areas of the map now, actually, you were kind of pointing out a little bit earlier about the CS lead coming in from this mid lane. This is now leading into a real problem point for Vitality.
That Chaos Storm on top of that gravity. Well, I mean, Perkz just got chunked.
And now this is, speaking of someone who plays this matchup quite a lot, because Viktor's been around for such a long time, when this matchup starts falling behind, things get really, really awkward. Larssen might have to flash there in turn, but Haru's not pulling the trigger.
And one of the big things that we were talking about for Vitality was having control to make plays in the early stages. Loads of that will funnel through mid lane. How Perkz is able to set up his wave, how Perkz is able to help out towards Dragons, towards Rift Heralds, and now that this matchup is starting to fall apart, it gives the opportunity for Rogue to avoid early skirmishes where the Viktor isn't as comfortable, where you don't want to be as people like Malrang and Odoamne.
Larssen's done a really good job of making sure the wave was in front of his tower when he wanted to just be poking out the enemy lane, just picking up CS, not just shoving that lane, but making sure he's getting that individual advantage. Now Perkz, blowing that ult, doesn't have a teleport, behind in CS, behind in XP. This is now going to be slightly problematic, as you were saying, if Vitality do start looking for that playmaker.
One thing I do want to bring attention to as well is not only then Perkz falling behind, Alphari in the top lane only marginally ahead of this Ornn, level 7 to level 7. Both top laners have backed and recalled. You can see the Summoner Spellbook on the side of Odo. I mean, Would you have liked to have seen a little bit more out of the Aatrox into Ornn, Dagda? Because you raised an eyebrow when we saw this locked in.
So I think Alphari's doing the best he can at the moment. The problem is that when Haru's been putting so much attention bot side, Alphari has to play a little bit safer in the top end, but he's doing a good job, right? The wave's getting shoved in, he's got half a turret play for himself, he is building the advantage that he wants. My biggest issue is that it always puts you very heavily into the early stage of the game, right? Where you want to be trying to power through that mid game. And I know Sejuani was banned, but we see that as a response a lot of the times. Maybe you look for something like a Kennen or something as well, something that can still have a little bit more of that late game, but may not have an easy as time towards like ganks and these kind of things.
Yeah, but you know, Alphari has loved his lane dominance. You know, that's why he's played like 10 games of Gnar. And I'm no architect, but it's pretty load-bearing for how Vitality have gone around their drafts, right? Because it's just been so central to it, being able to blind pick it and just knowing that Alphari will succeed. How can he impact this fight, though? Herald's starting to heat up.
Well, you can see both top laners contesting inside the river. Herald down to 1,000 hit points. Haru's on the target and will be able to smite secure. Call of the Forge Guard by Odo. Will knock up Alphari. Haru's running for his life. The Cowstorm goes forward. Fantastic searing charge. The Herald was picked up, but 2 quick kills to Rogue.
I mean, Carzzy just got completely caught out there by Malrang. Great job by Malrang to catch out the AD carry of Vitality, and there's nothing left. The tank, that flash was still down.
Oh man, the kitten and the fox jumping forward onto the Rogue. Man, the burn, one lost auto. Larssen gets taken down by Labrov, but at what cost? Spirit Rush recharge from Perkz brings them out alive, but the double combo chunking out Larssen.
Okay, so they get something back in that mid lane. That's good, but the Herald fight itself was really awkward from Vitality. You're engaging on multiple angles versus an Ornn who will tear you apart if you get stuck between him and the rest of the team. You don't have enough mobility to disengage from everything being thrown at you. That Call of the Forge card was pivotal here.
Yeah, and I mean, watch Malrang here, right? Carzzy takes that step too far forward to try and get some poke damage, and instantly Malrang flashes forward to get on towards Carzzy, shuts him down, Ornn ultimate to follow on towards Alphari. And from that point forward, as you say, like Rogue, it's so much easier, right? They're just that moving ball forward that's catching everyone in Vitality in their path.
Rogue managed to pick up a crucial fight. They managed to disrupt and slow down Vitality. If you are an XL fan, you want this play to work. You want Rogue to find more kills, and Carzzy will not be able to escape. Just a quick reminder here, Vitality win, and they are in playoffs, and XL Fnatic will be fighting for that last spot. We do need to see the next game play out, but I think crucially, Finn right now, sitting backstage, sitting upstairs. You can see Finn on camera, supporting his old team. Finn played at Worlds with Rogue, and right now he is Rogue's biggest fan.
And you know what? Rogue aren't in a bad position here. That last death from Carzzy, a reminder, this is while you have the Herald inventory. You really want to start getting that gold into Zeri if you can. Carzzy dying, not being there to push in waves, not being there to potentially throw the Herald into you early, is actually quite problematic for Vitality and good for Rogue.
Especially when you look at the scaling that Rogue have. It is terrifying, and here comes Malrang.
Another gank being set up. Odo's down to 400 hit points, but Alphari's running for his life. Heroic Charge won't find the stun. Malrang forced to back away. Alphari held onto that flash.
So you just mentioned, Rogue's got good scaling. You just mentioned, here's Malrang again. You know what? This is a lot of how Rogue have found success in the past. We talked about them losing their identity. This is finding some of that shades of former glory.
Rogue 2,000 gold up, and I don't know if I'm more surprised by that or Vitality picking up the first dragon, Dagda. They still have that Herald in their inventory. Yes, they are behind in gold, but that Herald should be worth theoretical plates once they decide to drop it.
Yeah, and I think they're going to try and do that now. I think a lot of this is trying to right the wrongs here a little bit that have happened in the mid lane with Perkz falling substantially behind Larssen. Like, you need to try and get some control back for Perkz here. And you can already look at with Labrov and Haru here. Maybe they're looking for something, but they're considering invade as well. I don't know if you want to invade here, especially when your bot side is so far behind.
Well, you do have a lot of target access with the pillar into something like a Yuumi ult, force out flashes, and then you're looking for the charm after that point. There is ability to play around it, but are you actually too far behind at this point?
Yeah,
because you have a Merc Treads, you've got the Cowstorm on the other side. Actually, there's a good chance you dive too deep.
Yeah, my biggest worry is like Larssen having the Mythic already completed. You got a pickaxe over on the side of Comp as well, just when it comes to raw damage. It just feels like Rogue at the moment are just that little bit too far ahead on this bottom side of the map. So maybe we could look for something with Vitality trying to play off the advantages that Alphari has. And that Rift Herald, as it just is about to spawn out, will be popped down in the mid lane. But can Perkz actually get in here to get these plates?
We'll see. Larssen might just pop the ult. He's not going to be... He doesn't get it.
No.
He doesn't get it.
Yeah, this is not working out well for Vitality so far. Like, look, Haru doing great. He's got 2 kills on the Trundle, has his mythic complete as well, but Perkz being this far behind means he's going to be struggling to be relevant this game.
And I'm sure the many jungle mains out there will go, yes, more gold for the jungle. I enjoy this. This is good. But you're sat here as a playmaking damage champion. This Ahri is going to really struggle in this game because, let's be honest, who are you going to hit this Ahri this game? Maybe this Viktor during the laning phase, but outside of that, you're hitting a lot of targets which aren't going to start falling down easily. No gold to even hit bad targets is rough for Perkz.
The one thing I will highlight, obviously having Trundle is a touch of that get out of jail free card. That subjugate can make a gigantic difference because I think if you look down the damage profiles, Aatrox, Trundle, Ahri, Zeri, any one of them can be, amplified by that Yuumi. Over on the side of Rogue, you're really going to be leaning on that AoE from the Viktor and the Sivir. So slightly different approaches, but what that does mean is as long as Larssen and Comp can stay protected, they've got the tools to win some of those fights.
So that's the argument, right? So if it becomes about killing the first target, yeah, okay, Vitality have some ways to make this work. Maybe if they haven't quite set up in the 5v5. If it becomes about actually the follow-on after that point, well, you got a Sivir ult, got everything out. I think that starts falling away from Vitality very quickly.
It's also, like, when you look at Rogue's comp, look at how well they control space. Like, if you're looking at neutral objectives, you've got the Ornn, you've got his pillar, you've got his ult. You look at the Viktor, you got the gravity field, you got his ult as well. You've got Lulu, who's going to be able to keep the people protected. Whoever slips through is then going to turn into a Whimsy. He's going to have a wall of growth, and Malrang might find Perkz.
Bye, Perkz. Not going to be able to take him out just yet. Spirit Rush away to safety. He stays alive.
That was a really clutch charge.
Yes.
That stops the charge coming through, which means that there's also CC before the Steadfast Presence can come through. That's the flash save from Perkz because he plays it out like that. But still, that's an ult down. It means that actually Vitality can't make proactive plays for a little while because they don't have that playmaking tool.
Malrang's not done yet. I mean, he was lingering just over the wall. Flash is available to him. Still has that Hex Flash as well. Take quick stock of the CS, plus 18 in the top lane. Alphari ahead. That mid lane is still hovering at a 20 CS difference, currently 1 level advantage to Larssen. And as the second Herald has spawned, Rogan are going to be inside the pit for that one.
And this is going to be heartbreaking for Vitality because they want to try and push the pace this forward. They want to try and look for these turrets. So at least Haru is trying to trade this now, cross-map it with the bot lane turret. But it feels like, at least for the moment with Rogue, they'll potentially be able to answer with a turret themselves. This is just them keeping pace with Vitality in this mid-game.
Yeah, so you're getting a little bit of gold for this. That's nice, and that's the first turret of the game. Giving up that second Herald, though. Well, second Herald has some more benefits now with the local gold being kind of buffed for that. But imagine this Herald now actually goes down in mid lane and takes down mid lane out of turret. I think Rogue have a really big power play in pocket to punish Vitality for going for this cross map.
Yeah, I think the best way the Vitality can try and play this is now sticking Perkz into this bot side. One of the big advantages of an Ahri that I think gets overlooked a lot is how good she is in a side lane, because you've got the Spirit Rush to keep yourself safe as you look to chip away at turrets. So having that then roam mid could be the play.
And you see the damage onto that Ornn, by the way. The full kill. I mean, I think Alphari hit absolutely everything. So, like, don't get me wrong. Odo just face tanked that. Yeah. I do want to mention, though, that now mythics have been picked up by everybody on the respective sides of the Rift. Take a look at your total gold here. What you buy Santander, Comp and Larssen currently out farming out golding, have more gold available than their respective opponents. That is crucial for how Rogue want to play this team fight out. And I think we've covered how their composition will work. Only one tower down. I do want to start talking a little bit about how Vitality want to play these team fights, because Nymaera, you mentioned it already, front to back, a little bit more challenging. You need to make sure that the damage from Zeri, the damage from Ahri can actually find those crucial squishes in the back.
Yeah, you want to find someone before the team fight can erupt if you can at all help it. Taking down these outer turrets on the side lanes does help, actually, because that gives you maybe some ability to get a ward in, then get a ward around the side, pick off someone as they're rotating the 5v5. That means it never becomes about this big phalanx, about the big tanks protecting their carries. That's how you can make it uneven.
I think this is very telling about where Vitality feel like they sit in this game, though, right? Mid-game Dragon, and they're not willing to fight for it. They're going to trade back, try and cross-map this. It looks like at the moment Vitality are trying to play the map, and this is something that they do instead of oftentimes going for these Dragons, and it has been the thing that finds them their success. So now, as you say, I agree with Nymaera, push inside, very quickly group on mid, try and force Rogue away from those turrets, but with Larssen and Comp's wave clear, that becomes so difficult to do.
Now, the next question to ask, right? We're even on kills, basically. 1 Dragon apiece. It's 2 towers in favor of Vitality. But we're playing for an Infernal Soul. Infernal Dragon with the potential of 3 additional Infernal Drakes, stacked on either side. That is, in my eyes, huge for both squads, because you've got a lot of damage that all members of Vitality can use, and your 2 carries on the side of Rogue will absolutely love that amplification.
I think the worry I have is if Infernal Soul is in play, it means you've reached late game. If you've reached late game, Rogue have a Viktor who hits you with 1E. I don't care if that's got an Infernal Soul on it or not. That's chunking someone out heavily. The Yuumi might be able to mitigate some of that, but this is the power play we're talking about. Take down that mid outer turret with this Herald. Suddenly Rogue have a good trade from that earlier cross map.
I mean, honestly, at the moment, this is looking so good for Rogue and so good for Excel as well. Like, with Rogue in the position that they're in, like, I do not doubt that Rogue can then just wait for late game. Like, they're under no pressure at the moment. You can see Vitality are trying to make that play we're talking about, you know, push Perkz in the side lane, try and group mid, but Larssen's doing a great job with this blue buff of clearing out waves, not really giving the opportunity for them to look for dives, and even look at Malrang's position. Well, I was going to say he was hovering mid, but may have just taken this moment to leave, which might give a bit of opportunity.
My job
for
here is
Vitality.
done. You didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Exactly, Hilsa. Nymaera, I do want to ask though, the last few minutes, both teams have kind of opted into cross-mapping. They've traded either towers or, you know, Herald for Dragon, and we haven't seen those skirmishes. Vitality now grouping up in the mid lane, 2 towers to 1. Do you expect a similar sort of flow waiting for the next Dragon, or is this really just going to be, if you can catch someone out, then you can push a neutral?
Well, I think right now Rogue are very happy to just play around the pushing Sivir, facilitate them, and make sure everyone else is just set. As long as you're getting farm, you're fine as Rogue. If this case of the game plays, I think it's at Rogue's choice.
Yeah, I mean, every so often we've seen a Sivir look pretty good this weekend and over the course of the split. She seems all right
champion,
in the late
you know.
game. Yeah, like a little bit of AoE damage, but yeah, again, just as you can say, like, farm up comp, make sure he's in a good spot. He's been fantastic all split long. Again, stepping into that carry performance. Larssen on a control mage in the late game, he's going to be happy as well. Like, Rogue's wins have come from late game fights, and I mean, they're basically going to be handled it on a silver platter here.
And there's something a little bit nice about seeing, you know, Rogue yesterday losing pretty catastrophically by trying to play stuff like the Ahri, proactive mid-game comps, and just saying, today, you know what? We used to be pretty good at this late game thing. We used to be pretty good at the scaling thing. Let's try a different attempt at things. They go into this, they start farming up around something like that Sivir, and for now, looks like it's on track for working for them.
I'm now taking a look at the Sivir, just league-wide as an aside. 20 games played this summer, 15 of them are victories, right? So it is a champion that has found phenomenal success. This weekend, I think our average game time is going to balloon. Yesterday, average game time was 42 minutes plus. And today, at 20 minutes in, we're about as even as you're going to get. And despite the fact the composition from Rogue is something that we are appreciating here on the caster desk, don't just kind of forget the fact that Vitality, those individual performances, those champions combined, if they play the fights well, can absolutely obliterate Rogue.
Sure, so while, you know, we've been saying, oh, you know, if this game pace continues, it probably works out for Rogue. If it doesn't, and there's an explosive pick somewhere, Vitality can absolutely run away with this game. All it takes is one bad enough pick, and that's a Baron in play. Remember, there's a lot of stakes riding on this.
There is indeed.
Keep that in the picture.
Win and you're in. Nymaera, I have to set you up because I'll steal the mic from you, because I'm going to ask fans here in Berlin, will Vitality lock playoffs? No. Ooh, I'll try that again. Will Vitality lock playoffs? Wow. Everybody at home, discord.lec.gg. I'm saying this is a 90% no from Berlin. They need to win to qualify. And you find out whether that happens. Of course, I think there might be some XL fans in the audience. Let me go to the better one. Are there some Fnatic fans in the audience? Right, now I know why. We can see the live vote on screen. 30 seconds away from the Dragon. A lot of fans at home starting to lose confidence in this composition working.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, Vitalities have good control here, great vision control. They can look to try and pick members of Rogue off before they get here, but they have to be so careful with how they fight. Like, now that you've got Rogue pushing in through mid, they can get access to this river.
And that engage on the charge, won't find the target. Malrang waiting in the wings, all 5 members around this mid lane.
Keep your eyes on Perkz, though. Has just been spotted. Great scrying orb there to spot out where Perkz was. He wanted to get that flank and see if he could get access towards Larssen, towards comp, but Alphari now is taking his position in that flank.
Yeah, and you really need to watch both of these solo laners, because Vitality, I think one person finding one pick isn't enough. Look, one shot doesn't actually do that much. Perkz gonna have to really work for this.
Oh, the flank away, that's the shot.
The Yuumi's gone as well.
Yuumi sent packing, Perkz goes low. Call of the Forge God sets it up for Malrang. And comp to find 2 kills. The fans may be right today. Rogue win the fight, Rogue get the Dragon.
What a disgusting popule. It sends the Yuumi out with them, and that's your disengage gone. That's your healing gone.
And Malrang at the end of that just says, get smote. Just slaps it onto Perkz, takes the kill, and now, you know, it's 22 minutes. You know, it feels good. A bit of a Baron here for Rogue.
it's going to be huge. Of course, now Rogue not only getting ahead in the Dragons, this was the mistake we said that maybe Vitality could get off of one pick. It comes down to the group fight. It comes down to that 5v5 we're so worried about. But Rogue poised to take Baron.
Alphari's coming in, final chapter over the top. Carzzy goes boom with the ult. Baron is chunking down members of Rogue, but it may not matter, it may not be enough. 1, 2 more members fall. Comp is trying to finish this out.
Carzzy?
Burst fire off the burst fire. Zap through the wall, the ultra shock laser won't find a kill. Gravity Well will dissuade any further follow-up, and Carzzy tried so hard and got so little.
They won't get the Baron, but they will at least get 2 kills for themselves as well, as Labrov tried to help out Alphari, but ends up getting caught as well. So, I mean, it's just more gold going into the hands of Rogue. 2 Dragons, a 2k gold lead. Rogue are looking brilliant as a Rabadon's death cap is completed by Larssen.
I mean, Vitality have a real bloody nose after this one because they avoid like the knockout of losing the Baron as well and being behind in pretty much all metrics. But this fight is just over once that Poppy ult hits. You don't get to play that disengage. The move speed from the Sivir means they get to close that gap. You don't get to retreat.
Yeah, and great ultimate there from Odoamne, being able to catch on to the 2 key members of Vitality. Now again, I mean, what are you trying to achieve here as Vitality? You can see Carzzy, when he's given that opportunity, can maybe try and carry these fights, but the front line isn't as strong as you need it to be. You're not getting the opportunities that you want to try and play for because Larssen is able to outrange you, Odoamne is constantly threatening you. It becomes so difficult for Vitality to play out these fights.
What I'm about to say is quite unfair, so please do measure that, right?
At least you're aware of it.
The last ban from Vitality was Wukong. The first pick in Phase 2 in the jungle pool by Malrang was Poppy. He's played it once this season. This is the second time. We were a little surprised to see the Poppy. We weren't 100% sold in the comp. Not only did Malrang pick up first blood by punishing that Yuumi, that Keeper's Verdict allowed them to secure the Baron. And if that Keeper's Verdict continues to disrupt Vitality, that could be the crucial pick to win the game.
Hey, we're going to have a scrap. Vitality are on the wrong side of town, and Rogue are feeling at the moment. Perkz, trying to see if you can find it, but I mean, no, Rogue are actually just going to back away from this.
I'm going to keep following Malrang at the beginning of every fight. The moment he stops the Poppycopter, if he can get rid of that Yuumi, if he can get rid of that Trundle, there's a lot of tools for them. And all of a sudden, I mean, what is Malrang doing? He's going full James Bond.
I mean, right now we've got Perkz trying to find an angle, but I mean,
Can observers toggle vision?
again, just Vitality and dangerous
Oh,
ults. But this
Perkz
is
in
what.
trouble.
Oh, they've popped the ults.
The call of the Forge God. Malrang's waddling his way to the middle lane. Alphari will be late to the play.
What is happening?
Viktor pinned into the wall. Haru is down. The Keeper's Verdict still alive as the final chapter goes forward. Here comes Alphari. The Gravity Well locks him inside the middle of 5 members of Rogue. But Carzzy needs to find the burst fire. He goes golden with a bunch of shield, but he's about to get taken out. Pop down. 1, 2,
No
3
way.
kills. All of a sudden, Vitality have the damage. They have the life boss. They have won the fight. Rogue did not find the target.
They don't get rid of the Yuumi. The last fight looked so one-sided because the healing was gone. And now Alphari is online.
I thought Carzzy was going to be the carry, but Alphari is swiping people down where they stand. Every single person feels his fury and Vitality. They take the fight and they're getting themselves back into this game.
One of my big worries about Vitality's just whole team as this composition, this set of champions, is that you do find it hard to hit those carries. It doesn't really work out that way when you've just like gone like an absolute loop-de-loop and you just flip everything up, because for lots of this fight, yeah, Odo is stood in front of Comp and Larssen, but the later this fight goes on, the harder the tanks of Rogue find it to actually stand in front of their carries.
And that's the thing, look at the different angles that you're coming in from. Carzzy gets knocked away, Alphari gets great position here. Look at the healing that is coming through here for Alphari. Off the Gourd Drinker, off his kick, Carzzy coming in the back side of this, and then eventually Yuumi ends up transferring across there, but so much damage from Alphari in that fight, and he goes in dirty healthier than he went to out.
And I think the thing which is like most disgusting about this fight is I was looking at the like the items just before this and I was like, wow, Rogue are just a better version of Vitality's inventory right now because they have Ornn upgrades, they've got a death cap, they've got so much damage, but they didn't even matter in that last fight.
I mean, look at the chunk out. Haru is getting up to the charm. The charm onto Comp, but he cleanses away immediately. Flash is available in just a few moments. Perkz gets popped. Perkz gets popped. He does not find the kill. We are 20 seconds until the next Dragon final chapter is available. Alphari has got his World Ender as well.
I mean, you've got to try and move in here as Vitality. See if you can try and get this Dragon for yourself. Malrang trying to see if he can move around onto this backside, find another flank opportunity. He has the Hex Flash to get over the wall and sneak in outside of Vitality's vision.
We are on completely opposite sides of the map, by the way.
Rufflecopter, Rufflecopter! That's gonna send Haru flying, but the final chapter gets primed. It does not matter. Rogue get 2 more kills, get the dragon, and Haru pops his flash to get away.
And that'll be so point for Rogue. And look at the death timers as well. Alphari down, Labrov down. Rogue have the numbers advantage, and they want to try again for this Baron.
And Rogue are really heating things up today. We knew there were a lot of implications on this one. The Baron is finally going to be set sight on by Rogue. This could be that knockout punch.
Odo looking for the charge, sitting in the bush. He's now spotted. Won't go on to Haru. They're happy to just finish off the Baron before they commit. And they should just back away here.
So much damage from that Ultra Shock laser. Carzzy not able to get in range. Dagda, this is the second Baron. This is the third dragon. Rogue are 4,000 gold up, and we have seen, ladies, gentlemen, everybody else, you've seen how this comp is played out. Dagda and Nymaera explained it, but more crucially, we're seeing Rogue execute it.
And that's the thing. I mean, look at the items that you're starting to come through. The 3 items here for Larssen. You got 3 items for comp. And again, great positioning from Malrang. We talked about him sneaking around the vision that Vitality had. Sneaking through Vitality's jungle to get the Rafflecopter off and smack the problems that they had out of the way.
Now, I know you had that poignant note a little earlier about Finn kind of relying on Rogue. While XL earlier in the day played a comp not too dissimilar to Rogue's. It was about that tank top scaling team fights, and Rogue seems like they picked up the same kind of idea. They're going back to that style, and it is absolutely working for them.
And of course, if Rogue close this one out, Vitality are done. They will not be able to advance to playoffs. And we'll talk about the other stories in just a moment. But for Vitality, just take a brief moment. Think about the year. Think about the spring performance, playoffs, ultimately a disappointment for the super team. Put yourselves in the summer. These glimpses, these moments, you start to buy into the hype train. Vitality still 9-8, final game of the season. They're behind. They have a comp that is more difficult to execute, and they have to deal with Baron empowered minions. There could not be a more difficult situation right now.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like you need to rely on Perkz and Alphari getting that like magic flank, that miracle opportunity that could bring it back, but no TP available except for Alphari, so maybe he's looking for one of these wards to get in behind the siege of Rogue.
That is exactly what I was worried about, because when you push in very quickly, what you'll often see is a big turnaround flank, because you've pushed too hard and you haven't cleared out the vision alongside it. That's why you see teams be quite methodical in modern League of Legends, because you're aware of these wards, which you can see on screen right now.
And Rogue aren't aware.
Even though they could just walk into that bush. It's right there, folks.
Well, let's take a look what happens here. Vitality now being pushed into their base. If they drop this game, there's still a possibility of a tiebreaker match, boys, that you and me and Dagda will cast, Nymaera. Rogue are pushing into the inhibitor, #1 secured. Fall of the Forge God, the zoning ultimate. I'll run you through those as we have a moment here for Vitality. Assuming they lose this game, if Fnatic win, Vitality versus XL, tiebreaker for the final spot. For Vitality, they're now under pressure, still trying to stay alive as Rogue continue the siege. If Vitality lose this game and Fnatic lose to Misfits, it will be Vitality locked in place because of that hit-to-head.
This is the last wave that can get the Baron buff, so Rogue trying to really rinse as much as they can out of this Baron buff, and I mean, Vitality can't even try and respond. Immediately, a second inhibitor gone, and I mean, this becomes so easy for Rogue now. 2 inhibs down, Dragon Soul in a minute and a half, and I mean, Rogue aren't just hitting their stride, they're dancing their way through this game.
The base is absolutely shredded, and the problem with that kind of moment, this kind of situation, is now you've got 2 inhibs down against a team with much better wave clear than you two, even when you do have these super minions coming through. Larssen, Combi's gone!
Oh, the charm, but the spell shield, look at the damage and reply. So close, but Perkz ultimately gets that. But that's huge. Death time at 50 seconds with a minute to go for Dragon.
Massive pick coming through from Carzzy with the Ultra Shock laser set up for Perkz to go for that. Now Vitality, they can push out waves, they can get control over this. And again, once you have vision, it becomes so much easier for you to find these flanks. And you have one target, which is Larssen right now.
I have to say, like, not only was Comp caught napping, I was a bit too, because I didn't even see that coming on stream until he was already dead. You need a tank in front of your carries. That is the core of what Rogue need to do. Comp caught out. See if it has any implications, or whether that vision does come to play.
Talk to me about this Dragon setup. This is Infernal Soul for Rogue. 16 seconds before Comp is alive. 30 on the spawn timer. Should be able to get into position. There are 2 waves of supers. that Vitality have to deal with. And look, Odo is being chipped away from, that Subjugate's being held, but importantly, Vitality just pushing this wave as far away as they can.
But look at the vision the Rogue has already established, right? They've got some in behind the pit, they've got some in river. Vitality are now clearing that out, but all they need to do is spot where the flanks are coming from Vitality. Comp is now regrouped with the team, and Malrang is the one who's actually threatening on the side, and Perkz gets another Charmer to come.
Lands a lot of damage on the hunt, Malrang! Not gonna be able to find the kill just yet, but does! Comp with one last auto. 1 minute dead time. Infernal Soul is available. Malrang waiting in the wings. Currently 2, 0, and 11. Involved in 13 of Rogue's 14 kills. The Soul secured, Rogue in control.
And in that moment, Malrang says, you caught out my carry, how about I catch out one of yours? Perkz, he is obligated to look for those flanks, but Malrang punishes so hard.
Alphari's World Ender needs to step up because Vitality's world may end tonight. The base is being pushed in, 2 super minions available, 20 seconds before Perkz spawns. Larssen steps forward, throws out the laser in just a moment. Carzzy and Haru get tagged up. Carzzy forced to spark through the Nexus. Chaos Storm chipping away. Nexus turret number 1 is down. Alphari now has Yuumi on his back. Final chapter, holding on, 7 seconds for Perkz. Teleport is available to him as well. Are there any wards? How do Vitality defend? The Nexus turret's the focus.
They're trying to use the defender's advantage, try and regen, but they're getting burst out.
Oh, that Pillar of Ice will slow down Rogue, but there's no further follow-up. Where's the charm? Where's the charm? Perkz holds on to the trigger. The minions are now slowly being chipped away from and destroyed. Nexus turret standing. One lost auto. It's taken down by Comp. Call on the Forge God goes forward. The final chapter finds nobody. It whips. It wanders through Rogue. The knockout follow-up from Odo is great. And Vitality are being destroyed in their base. Carzzy, the last man standing. Ace. Rogue take down Vitality.
Rogue have such a classic look to them in this game. They had wandered away from this style for a little while at this point. We were starting to worry about lack of identity. Are they starting to fall off? What's happening? They're falling off at the end of the split. But this game was a steadfast, real presence. I mean, Poppy, whatever, sure. But like, this was a great performance from them to just say, yeah, we still got it.
And I think it was really well orchestrated from the very beginning, right? We saw Malrang trying to keep control over this bot side, make sure that's not falling out too heavily. Larssen stepping up huge over Perkz, getting just a solo advantage for himself, looking great in that mid lane on the Viktor, and from that being able to get themselves to that late game where there was just nothing to match on Vitality's side.
And now we have really interesting potential last game with ADC, right? But this is, again, everything on the board now.
No doubt about it. I'll try to summarize it, but I believe the Analysts will cover this a little bit better. Because of the Vitality loss, if Fnatic win, there will be a tiebreaker game between Vitality and XL for that final spot. Because Rogue on stage took down Vitality. If Fnatic lose, Vitality will be locked in. The Analysts will break that down. We will see Fnatic taking on Misfits in a minute. Before we get to that, Kia Player of the Game nominees at LEC on Twitter. Odoamne, Malrang, or Larssen. Part of me thinks Freddy's name should be on there too. That Poppy to me, I don't think the impact can be understated. And I think Malrang used it to perfection.
I think it's a bit of Malrang magic in this one. The fact he was able to consistently sneak in behind the opposition, using the fact that Rogue had been there to set up that vision early, and then getting the perfect flanks, catching Perkz, catching these carries that in theory are really hard to lock down. But I mean, Malrang just made it look easy.
And he made an absolute mess right from level 1.
Yeah,
It started
exactly.
with the E, and the Yuumi sat there going, I'm in danger.
I
I
also love, by the way, Yuumi gets locked in. There's so many feelings around this champion. Concedes first blood.
Target acquired.
Has the one gigantic team fight that really gave hope there for Vitality. But I think, you know, from the get-go, it was going to be a difficult composition to play. We wanted to see those solo laners really picking up advantages, and it didn't come to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, Alphari did a relatively good job of trying to keep himself in check, but as we kind of talked about, we wanted to see Vitality a little bit more playing through that mid-jungle, trying to see if they could set up Perkz, but Larssen just had such good control, there was nothing they could do.
Nothing at all. Of course, the man in the top lane, Odoamne, they're helping lead Rogue to victory, standing by with Medic.
Thank you very much, Trevor. I'm joined by Odoamne now. Odo, that was a game of League of Legends right there. Is it when you approach a game like this, obviously, like, we could talk about the minutiae of the game, but I kind of want to ask a little bit more of a big picture, right? You guys have qualified for playoffs already. You know that you can be the deciding factors to whether Vitality make it in or not, right? By beating them here, you've taken destiny out of their own hands. How do you approach a game like this where you know you're already locked, but you can change the outcome for someone else?
I mean, the fact that we were locked didn't really matter because the game still had some stakes for us because if I'm not mistaken, if we lost and then some random stuff happens, we could still end up like 4th or 3rd, and then we don't have like, you know, higher seeding into playoffs with like side selection and all of that stuff. So for us, it was a really important game, especially because we lost yesterday. And yeah, I mean, okay, if we would have won yesterday, then it could have been like, you know, just for fun today, just knock Vitality out or whatever. But the fact that we lost...
just for fun, knock him out. Just for fun. Yeah, just knock Perkz out of the league. You know, it's great.
Oh, okay, that kind of sucks. I don't want Perkz to mix playoffs, but it would have been... It's fun to create the chaos, you know?
Yeah, okay. I've watched your streams. I know you enjoy creating a little bit of chaos from time to time. Let's talk about how you're going to approach playoffs over the next few weeks. Obviously, we have a break week. You have a long track record of making it into playoffs, making relatively deep runs. Yeah, I was going to get there, and losing in playoffs. Yeah. Is there a change up in the way you're going to approach this, or do you think that what you've been doing has been working, you just haven't had that final step?
I wouldn't necessarily say just because this playoffs is different. Because I think in the second half of the season, we kind of dropped the ball and we kind of sucked.
I mean, yeah, you were like 2-5 at one point in the second half of the season?
Yeah, now we're like 4-5, yeah. I think, which still kind of sucks. So, I don't know, I feel like LEC is at the moment kind of a shit show where everyone's just bad.
Sure.
Well, okay, not bad, not bad.
No, he's talking about himself as well, so it's fine, guys.
Okay,
he's saying he's bad.
Okay, stop it.
Everyone's bad.
Okay, so not bad, but it's like more so, I feel like a lot of teams are inconsistent. Sure. Maybe except G2 because they kind of found their mojo again for the second half of the season. Who would have guessed? So, I don't know, outside of that, I feel like everyone's struggling to find consistency, ourselves included. So, I don't know, I feel like playoffs is up for grabs and we kind of need to... I don't know, just kind of keep doing what we're doing because even though we lost to BDS yesterday, our weeks have been a bit better or like a lot better because at some point I think last week you were like 0-25 in scrims and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely better. So I feel like we can take this week and a half to kind of work on our consistency because I feel like no one is, you know, an unbeatable opponent right now in playoffs. Right, and I'd rather have the underdog mentality than...
going overconfident.
Yeah, kind of like what we had seasons before or like splits before where we're just like, okay, Rogue is first. They're going to lose in playoffs anyway because it's just like choke and all the memes and stuff. So I'd rather just, you know, be the underdog for once.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And this is the first time in a little while you haven't been first at the end of the regular season as well. I will say Malrang won Kia Player of the Game for that. Apologies to you. You were on the vote this time, but unfortunately you weren't able to win it. Obviously, he had a great game.
Yeah, I mean, no matter who you put on the vote, I mean, he had an amazing game. I think he hit everything this game. I feel like he had such good plans throughout the game, and I feel like his positioning was so good for the fights, and he knew his role for the fights, you know, perfectly. But I feel like at the same time, everyone played this part in fights, except for that one fight where Aatrox hit like, you know, 7 Qs in a row on 4 people. And yeah, that kind of sucked. But outside of that, I think everyone did a great job, but Malrang stepped up big time today.
Yeah, of course. And obviously you had a great game as well. We're going to go to a short break before we're back with the final game of the day. It's do or die for Fnatic as a loss eliminates them from the competition. We'll be back for game 5 after the break.
Even the biggest champ needs a break.
And some Kit Kat for you, and some Kit Kat for Elder, and some... No Kit Kat for Perkz.